left-wing Kingz. Listen, think, act, repeat. Voter apathy is the lack of interest or enthusiasm in participating in the electoral process, and it can be caused by various factors, and it can have serious consequences on our democracy. Unfortunately, many people of color don't participate in the electoral process, and even those who did in the past are starting to sit it out because of many different reasons. So, Carla, why are people of color deciding not to vote?
There are so many reasons why people are not voting in this cycle in particular. And some of that has to deal with the distrust, right? The distrust that's happening, the systemic barriers that exist to voting in terms of the voter suppression laws, the gerrymandering, the just general restrictive voting laws. There are other barriers to access, such as accessing polling places. I did some research and I found that in West Texas, there was one drop-off voting booth for about 2,000 people.
Yeah.
But in Harris County in Houston, there's one drop-off box for 4 million people.
Crazy.
So there's a disparity there, and it's causing people to feel that cynicism. And one of the things that I think is most important is just the historical trauma that's associated with maybe colonization or slavery or things of that nature. People not thinking that their vote matters. So that's my thought on it.
Yeah, I mean, no, there's an attack on the black vote. We all know that. The Republicans, they have cases, pending right now all around the country to go for voter suppression, to try to limit laws. I mean, that's the game they played right after the election, but they did it right after Obama got elected also, man. They went and actually passed a voter restriction law that attacks the black vote. And I think with all that going on, man, there's a lot of black people that are just frustrated, and just don't want to participate, not understanding their non-participation is their vote.
Absolutely.
That's what they're going for.
If you don't vote, you're voting. Period.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, man.
It's interesting to me. I was thinking earlier, our kids, specifically our young men, when they turn 18, they sign up for a selective service, right? Why aren't we having civic classes in high school? But in those civic classes or in high school or when you get your driver's license, why are they not doing voter registration at that time?
Yeah, I mean, and speaking on that, there's a lot of young black males just don't even understand how that works.
Absolutely.
I was telling my nephews, like, you guys don't understand because there's no Vietnam. I said, but in Vietnam, people had to go to war. People coming back dying. I said, but hey, they keep messing with Ukraine and Iran. There may be one.
It's going to be a draft.
And I said, you a military age when you're under the age of 35. They're going to come get you.
Under the age of 35, I think they just increased the age to like 40-something.
Please don't do it to 53. I did my time already.
Well, you don't look 53.
Yeah, I was.
Use a lie.
I feel 53. What you mean? You look 55. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, hey. Look, you look 67. You don't look 53.
All that great.
So at the end of the day, man, one of the things that I also thought about was like that you brought up a lot of good reasons why. And it's sad that these are true because, like you said, once you decide not to vote, even if it's distrust or whatever the case may be, you're making a decision to impact by your lack of impact.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's another thing out there that's going on with this, and it's dissatisfaction of the candidates. Some people aren't voting because of that. Now, it's still, to me, even if you don't like either choice, you got to pick. You got to pick something. I don't understand why, hey, I don't like either one, so I'm not going to vote. What's up with that?
So that's a great point. This guy over here is going to hurt you, but this guy over here is going to kill you.
Okay.
So you have to pick your poison, right? So it's called political polarization. And basically, there's this perception that both of the major parties are either too similar or that there are no viable options out there. So I think my husband, he called it two wings of the same bird, right? And this can lead to disengagement.
Oh, okay. That's good. I mean, I never really thought of it that way. Two wings of the same bird. I like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing I ever heard your husband say that I like.
Well,
So-
kudos to Dr. Sizer number 2.
Okay, Dr. Two. All right. So let me ask you this. Why do people think their vote doesn't matter? We just talked about not voting is you're voting. You're by your lack of action. So why do people think their vote doesn't matter?
You know, what's funny? I saw a video with Rick Ross that talked towards this, the rapper, and he basically pointed out that people are delusional and pointing to this a little bit. It's a lot of people that think like because they got stimulus checks, Trump gave those to them. Like, man, Trump, I was paid and doing this and doing that. So they think Biden hasn't did anything because they didn't get a stimulus check. They don't understand how the government works, right? And so Rick Ross went on to say, he said, man, back up and think about it. Did Trump give you that money? Or did you take out a PPP loan and steal the money? He said, because that's stealing. And he said, if that's what you're doing, that's delusional. With that delusion, I think a lot of people say, well, I didn't get no money, so I'm not going to vote. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's people are just like using the wrong thing or the wrong motivations to vote, not understanding how it actually works. Just not educated on that. So they make bad decisions. Man, I got $20,000 when Trump was in office, so I'm gonna vote for him, or I'm not gonna vote because I'm not with Biden or whatever the case may be. And a lot of them just hear the talking points. They don't do no research. They just hear the rhetoric, and if they get caught up on the wrong thing, they'll hear people say like Biden's too old or whatever.
That's the media influence, right?
Exactly. And then they'll be discouraged to vote. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a lot of things going on, and people aren't taking the time to slow down, research, and make a decision. And I guess in the case of them, voting's hard. It's too hard for them. It just ain't easy. You know what I'm saying? So they're not going to research, or if they're going to vote, they're going to make a decision based on something they heard and they didn't research.
So you make a good point about the research, right? Sometimes they feel like the issues that are at hand are too complex. They don't understand what the issues are. There's this lack of civic education that I mentioned earlier. If you have inadequate civic education, that can lead to a lack of understanding of the issues and the importance of the individual participation.
Definitely. And I can cite an example. We talked about it in one of the episodes that we talked about a different aspect of voting, but this kind of rings true for what you're saying right now. What you also said is that the last time we voted, we went to the polling place, and the lady was in there. She was like, I don't understand this question. So she raised her hand and asked the voting person to come help her explain it to them. But they can't help you. They can't tell you anything.
That's right.
They can't influence your vote by having a conversation with you about it. So she was very upset because now, like you said, it was complex. If you ever go in there, you just look up, you get that little yellow paper that they have and read through them joints.
Hey.
What the hell am I voting on? What's yes and what's no mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy, but people don't do their research on candidates. They don't do their research on the things that are happening.
The proposition.
They don't want the proposition, the referendum. They don't House bills. They don't want to go in and do the work that it takes to make an educated vote.
I think this is really a good time to remind our viewers out there that in Texas, it's early voting right now.
Sure is.
Started 20 February. It's through the 1st of March. Election day is March the 5th. These are the primaries. I walked in and out on early voting. I was the only one in there. Now, when I left, there was a whole gaggle of people in there.
Okay.
And I went in there in advance and I got that ballot and I went through every single one of those candidates and I researched them, every single one of them. And then I went in and I was like, in and out.
Yeah.
But you have to research them. You have to. And I think another reason why people think that their vote doesn't matter is that when we're talking about large scale voting, for example, when the not the primary, but the general election comes, voters feel like they're just a drop in the ocean, right? And they believe that their vote won't make a significant, difference in the overall outcome. But it does. Yeah. And there are specific examples of when one vote made a difference.
Yeah.
Or when, the popular vote over the electoral. Let's talk about Gore.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
another podcast.
Yeah.
But there are many examples of that happening, even back into the 1800s. So
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Now, Republicans ain't won the popular vote in
that's right.
decades. You know what I'm
right.
saying? So, it's to play on the electoral college. So, but once again, I think voting sometimes is just a lot of people, it's just too hard for them. It's too much. They don't want to do it. It's not easy enough. Then there's powers out there, powers that be, or that are really trying to discourage you to vote. Also on top of that. So it's just, I don't understand. Like, for instance, you were saying that there's examples to where your vote counted. Well, Roe versus Wade should tell you that. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's take it back to Obama when Mitch McConnell blocked Obama from putting in a judge, and then they turned around and turned those judges over to Trump. Trump got 3 judges in there, and now there's no Roe versus Wade. You know what I'm saying?
And if you didn't vote,
yeah,
you were part of that problem.
you're part of that problem. And right now, what are they talking about in Alabama? Embryos?
Oh,
Yeah.
You go to jail for throwing away an embryo?
yeah.
Yeah.
So now those are babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. When you introduce yourself to your girl right then and there, you know what I'm saying? That's a baby, dog. You know what I'm saying? You better watch what you say. You know what I'm saying? That's where they going, man. It's getting ridiculous.
Hey, I want to introduce y'all to that like button. Make sure y'all hit that like button. All right. Make sure you like this video. Make sure that you subscribe to Left Wing Kingz, and also share this video on all of your social media platforms so that, you show us a little bit of love.
Does that every time, every show.
I'll get you. So
We don't practice that.
we talked about voting. We don't ever practice that, man. I got the skills. So what are some of the consequences of not voting? We kind of talked about it a little bit with, you kind of led into that with the whole thing about Trump getting elected. And then the proximate cause of that was, Roe versus Wade getting overturned. But what are some of the other consequences of not voting?
Well, let's break it down. I mean, and I always tell people the general election is great to vote for. It's the most popular, but a lot of people don't even vote in local elections.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So let's make it real simple as school board. You get mad because your kid ain't getting taught what they want to, but you don't vote for anybody on the school board.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't go to none of the meetings. You don't get involved with that. But then you want to complain all the time. One thing I say is if you don't vote, you can't complain.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to be involved with that. And I think even on the local side, statewide, we got Abbott in there just tripping. You know what I'm saying? They just, he and Uvalde, just for what he let happen in Uvalde, he should not be in office. You know what I'm saying? Like the state police were there. The state police should have had jurisdiction and all them kids got killed. But people still right after that went in and voted and put Greg Abbott in office. You know what I'm saying? So now the border stuff and all the whole 9 yards, we can go in, like you said, that's probably a time for another show. But the importance is pay attention to your vote and definitely on the local, the state side, be involved with that and understand how important it is. If you don't vote, it affects your life, plain and simple. And if you think your vote don't count, keep not voting and watch things change on you. But once again, if they change and you ain't nothing you can do, you complain. You didn't get involved.
And people won't really understand that until it affects them directly. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once it starts affecting them, then they're like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I should have voted, or maybe I'll vote in the future. But we have to, and I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but we have to find ways as a society, as a culture, to encourage people, especially our young people, because this is going to be their situation, right? To get out there and vote. Parents need to educate their kids right now about the importance of voting and having their voice heard. Because if not, there's going to be a policy misalignment in what's important to you and what actually happens.
Yes.
You'll have a limited amount of representation, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's my main takeaway from this whole conversation around the consequences of not voting is reduced representation.
Yeah.
Because if you don't vote, you don't have a voice.
That's right.
And nobody in there fighting for you. Because as long as the individuals, their platform that they were campaigning on remains true, and they were true to themselves about that, they should be going in and talking about the things, if you vote for them, that are important to you, that align with you and your beliefs. You won't have that representation, or you minimize the chances of you having that representation without you voting.
And you made it easy for them to do the work by not voting.
Yeah.
Exactly. You do exactly everything that's against you.
Yeah.
Right?
And look, whatever your beliefs are, Democrat, Republican, I mean, I'm independent. So, whatever your beliefs are, you need to vote. You need to be counted for that. I mean, I don't like when people are just delusional. Don't vote against things that don't benefit you.
Yes.
Right.
Like
Your own interests.
Yeah, don't listen to the rigmarole out there and be a populist voter, just the popularity and think, I'm going to go with this and that. And what the person you're voting for is not benefiting you at all in life. That's what I don't understand, the delusional voter. I'm saying, I'm not going to vote.
I don't even know if they're delusional or if they're like one topic voter. Like they're going to vote for the Republican because of
One thing.
abortion.
Yeah.
But they don't care that they're a teacher. And the Republican ain't supporting public education.
Exactly.
But they care more about the fact that, they're going to say no. I mean, they're pro-life. So I'm voting for them. Even I know my check's going to be small and I'm never going to get a raise in 15 years. Mm-hmm. But I'm pro-life, baby.
Well, here's the deal. I don't care how you vote. You can vote Republican. You can vote Democrat. You can vote independent. But however you vote, you better own that.
Yes.
You better own every bit of it.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Now, speaking of owning the vote, our ancestors couldn't even vote. And they went through hell. People died going to vote in this country. And some of y'all may not believe that. I don't give a flying, you know what? People died to vote, right? And they cared about voting because they felt that voting made a difference and it would help them progress in our country. And we've come a long way from that time. So why do we not see the value? Why do we not feel that it's important to vote when voting has done so much for us? Maybe it hasn't gotten us all the way there yet, but our ancestors saw the value. Why don't we?
Yeah. In terms of the ancestors, right? I mean, voting, the whole concept of voting really honors the sacrifices, right? And the achievements of those who fought for us to have the right to vote. And there's this whole thing about civil rights and equality. The right to vote is a fundamental civil right.
Yeah.
And a cornerstone of our democracy. And I just feel like, democracy is dead if we don't get out there and vote.
Yeah, I mean, they said when the forefathers set up this country, they set it up surrounded by the vote. And a lot of people don't understand, unfortunately, black people don't understand that that's the power. The power to the people is the vote. You know what I'm saying? They would not have killed us and discouraged us for doing it if it didn't have any power. You know what I'm saying? So just think about it like that. When Martin Luther King, they passed the Civil Rights Act in 1964, they went right back in 1965 and passed the the Voting Rights Act right after that in 1965. They had to do that. Martin Luther King and them understood without one, you can't have the other. You can't have civil rights without voting rights. We have to have power. And that's our power. I think right now in 2023, we forget how many people had to go through that to make that happen. It was a lot of hot, unair-conditioned rides between, Montgomery, Alabama and Atlanta with Martin Luther King to make sure that we could vote. I mean, it was a lot of people that went through a lot of things and a lot of sacrifices to make it happen. And I just think that we forget about that, how important it is. Not only just the discomforts that he have, but like you said, the people that died up to this particular point. There was, I don't know the name right now, but there was a World War II veteran that came out and he was in his uniform and went to vote. They lynched him right there on the spot.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what it means. We wouldn't be getting killed we wouldn't have gotten killed if that wasn't important. They wouldn't be not wanting us to get water. They wouldn't be making it harder to vote in predominantly black neighborhoods compared to predominantly white neighborhoods, like the doctor just said. Houston, which got a whole bunch of black people, you know what I'm saying, got one place you can drop off a vote. In Houston, Harris County, which is the most predominantly black county in Texas. That ain't about coincidence. No, you know what I'm saying? We all know that. But it's discouraging when you hear people, especially people of color, that just denounce the vote. I've had a conversation with a young man. He's now 40, but he was talking about why he doesn't vote. And I was like, you're stupid. I hate to say it. This is what it is. You're stupid. Because you're one of these people that don't vote, but then you always complain and you're talking about politics. But you don't vote. Yeah. So just
I don't want to hear it.
Be a bystander then. Just let life keep hitting in your face.
So. Don't say nothing. Don't complain. So before we jump into the next topic, I do want to give some shout outs. We got some people online. My man, Peter Milner from the United Kingdom. Always hanging with
Always
us. Thank you, Peter, for rocking with us.
What time is it
I don't know. It's got to be like 2:30 or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but Peter's
it's
always
late.
rocking with us.
And Peter's always here.
Preston Totosal says, is this live? Yes, Preston, this is live.
Hey, PJ.
You know, look, Preston, look. I'm sorry, Preston. But it is live. We got my wife, the queen, Walanda, says, voting against your own self-interest always baffles me.
Yes.
We got my man, Steve McClinic, who's always in the building. What's up, Steve?
Always in the house.
He says, because I feel like as a group, we haven't been taught. Oh, what did they say? Yeah, we haven't been taught where it is important to vote. Taught that it's important to vote. We should be voting in every election.
Absolutely.
Locally election, state election, and federal election.
Yeah.
If we voted like that in every election, we would have much more political power than we have right now. I agree with you, Steve. And then the Queen, Walanda, says, power in your words and actions. If you want your plights addressed, you must make people aware you are vested in the process. Voting is the first step. Exactly.
Squeaky wheel gets no oil.
You ain't
I do want to say one
like
thing.
that.
Abraham Lincoln once said, elections belong to the people. It's their decision.
That's right.
If they decide to turn their back on the people and burn their behinds, then they will have to sit on their blisters.
Ooh-wee. And your ass gonna hurt
something.
sitting on that blister.